Beyond the Blue RC, and today I got my E-Revo 2.0 and I changed out the servo. So do a quick overview, a little how-to on how to install these servos I picked up on amainhobbies.com, and they are two Savox 7.4 volt waterproof servos with aluminum housings. Really nice servo. There, that's what it looks like. It's the part number is SAVSW 1210SG, in case you're wondering. And is waterproof. It is the tall. I had a couple reviews. They were 5-star reviews, so that's what I picked up. And the EcoPower made one, which was very similar, and I don't know, I think it was maybe $10 cheaper. This one is $81.99. I think that one was 70 something, 69 something, something like that. It was cheaper. However, this has the metal housing, the aluminum housing, and I just went with that because you get a little extra heat protection with that, and for a few bucks more. And I've always had good luck with Savox, so I went with the Savox. The EcoPower was a little cheaper, but I went with Savox just because I like Savox. Maybe I'll get EcoPower for something else. But I don't know, they were plastic housings and they just weren't quite as nice. So I went with the Savox. Can't go wrong with Savox, in my opinion. Set this body out to the side. There are the servos. Some nice coreless digital servos. Waterproof, of course. And they just look sharp on there. They look good. Which doesn't hurt. They look good, in my opinion. And the blue aluminum housing, it's not a perfect match to the Traxxas blue aluminum, but it does. I think it goes together. I like it. So, to install these, obviously you have two screws up front, 2 screws up back. They have to be removed on each side. Once you get those out, there's a screw, of course, underneath this arm that has to come out. Well, I'll go over that when we flip it over, but you take out these 4 screws of the Traxxas servos, and that'll loosen them up. And then I started to remove the motor mount here and this screw down here, and then I had to take this out, and I was like, what am I doing? I can just take these 2 screws out, one here, one there, and then pop this lid off, and there's 2 screws front and back that you just take out, and this whole box will just slide out, and then you can get to this little plastic seal little dealio that's down in there. You can see one of the screws there. That has to come out so you can release the pressure on the leads, so you can get the leads out. And once you pull this out, take those 2 screws out and take that cover off, then you can relieve the pressure on the leads, and then you can pull those leads. Well, they can just be pulled right out because that thing keeps them from coming out. And also, it's greased in there too, so it keeps things waterproof. So obviously you got to take this off, take those 2 screws that are inside out, take that plate off, that plastic plate. Leads will pop right out. I actually left my Traxxas servos kind of hanging on until I loosely had my Savox servos in. So then when I pop the lead out, I could pop the Savox lead in where I wanted it. So this servo right here, and this went to where the Traxxas servo was. I wanted to make sure they went exactly into the receiver where I pulled the Traxxas leads out, just to make sure I didn't have any issues. May not have mattered because but never better be safe than sorry. If I can save a little bit of work, extra work, I'm all for it. So, okay, so I did put this back together because I didn't need to take all this out. And then once I tried to wire it up, I got the Traxxas Servos out. These were all ready to go. I was trying to wire my leads. These leads are really short. Really, really short. They only go, like this one here, I didn't think I need an extension for at least. I knew I'd need an extension for this one. So I had one on hand for this one. I knew I'd need it to run to here. This one, however, maybe a half an inch, just a half an inch too short. So I ended up needing an extension for this one too. Luckily, I had one on hand. My parts bin, I had to go searching for it, but I did find one. Thank goodness. I had to run out to my hobby store and get one. That would have been annoying. So you are going to need at least two 6-inch extensions. Maybe you can get away with a 3-inch. I just go with 6-inch, be safe. That's what I used, and that was perfect. You can tuck the access underneath here, underneath your motor here. And some access is tucked in back here. Just tuck it in right in there. Alright, so I'm going to flip it over and go over what needs to be done underneath. Alright, now before you can get the Traxxas servos out, you do need to remove these servo guards. These servo guards, skid plates, whatever you want to call them. And there's 2 screws on each side, one here, one there. Same thing for the bottom one. And once you remove those, you can easily get to the arm and the screw. You can get the screw out without removing it, but it's just easier to just take that off so it's out of your way. So you can, because you do have to adjust this towards the end there. So anyway, so you're gonna need to take that screw out. And there's one on the bottom down here you'll need to take out too, and that will release these arms. And then once you release these arms, have that screw out, the Traxxas servos will just pull right out because you've already removed those 4 screws up top. They'll just hang freely, and then you can drop in your Savox servos, and then just I need to flip back over and put your 4 screws back in. But before you do that, I do need to say that you're going to have to use a drill and drill out the mounting holes for these Savox servos because they don't quite line up. So you do need to take a drill and just here on each side, all 4, and just ream them out a little bit, make the holes a little wider, and then once you do that, then it'll sit a little more flush on the chassis, and then it'll just be better. You might be able to get away with not doing that, but I figured I'd just do it so it fits nice and flush on the chassis and doesn't sit all weird. So that's what I did, and it's not that hard. It just takes time, extra time. So once you get that done, that'll sit in nice and flush. Flip it back over, screw down your 4 screws. You don't have to tighten them all down all the way. Just get them in there, close to snug, so maybe they can have a little bit of movement in there. And then once or you can close them, or you can snug them down. It doesn't really matter. And then you can go ahead and you're going to need to adjust this. This needs to be parallel with the other one. It needs to be straight. Each arm. So this arm needs to be in a straight line all the way down to the other one, and that's about as close as I can get it because of the way the gear mesh is on the gear there with the arm, where the arm plugs in. They're not going to be perfect, but as long as you can get them as close as possible, you're not going to be putting too much stress on your servos. And these should go in quite easily. So if you don't, if they're hard to put in, they feel hard to put in, just you're going to need to take your arm and just screw it one way or the other to line it up, which you're going to need to do anyway to kind of, if these aren't quite lined up. So screw it either way. Just, you might need to just do a little bit of turn to get that just to slide on, and they should slide on quite easily. It shouldn't have to take a lot of force to get those to slide on. So anyway, once you get those on there, I went with some RC screws because I've got a bunch of them, because I've had a bunch of trucks over the years. Slayer, Traxxas, Emax, the original Emax. I've had the waterproof extended chassis Emax came out after that one that had the waterproof servos that look exactly like the ones that are on this E-Revo. And I've had a Rustler, so I mean I've just got RC screws, like 3 boxes of RC screws, stainless steel. So eventually I will probably replace some of these as they start to kind of get rust with RC screws. I've got a lot, 3 boxes of them. I think I have 2, 1 Revo, 1 T-Max, and I think I have 1 E-Max. So 1 of each. I've just collected over the years. So screw those in there. You do want to use a little bit of Loctite. The stock steel screws that came with the servo, they're painted and they were kind of a tight fit. Another reason why I went with these stainless steel ones, a little bit Loctite, they just were an easier fit to go down there. I didn't want to strip out the metal gear because that would just suck. And these are a better screw anyway because they're not going to rust. So I have them. Why not just use it, put it in there the first time, and I'll have to replace it later when they start to rust. Which I've already got some rust back here. Starting to rust out. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see they're starting to rust out. So I'm going to need to replace these. I'm not worried about it right now, but eventually there's comes a mess. So once you get this all lined up and the way you want it, and before you put this arm on there, you need to have your Savox Servos plugged into your receiver and powered on so that you can center your servos. The servos need to be centered before you can put this on, otherwise it's going to throw everything out of whack when you go to power it on, because it's going to throw all your adjustments out of whack if you haven't powered that up. So before you do anything, power up your servos and center them before you make any adjustments and plug these in. Once you get them powered up, centered, then you can make your adjustments, get these even with each other, get them nice and parallel, nice and straight. Put your screw it in, use Loctite, and you're good to go. You can put these back on. Tighten down these 4 screws up top on each side, and flip it back over and go over the final touches. Alright, so now once you've got it flipped back over and everything under here is buttoned up, if these haven't been fully tightened down, fully tighten these down. Don't over tighten them, just fully tighten them down on each side, and they'll be good to go. Then you're going to run your wires underneath here. Don't forget about your extensions you're going to need, one for each servo. Run it through. Run both of them through underneath here. Then you can run them through your box, your receiver box. Plug them into the, if you haven't, well, yeah, they should already be plugged in, but you had to center your servos before you do anything else from the get-go. And then you can just button it back up. Obviously put your plate back on once you get all your wires situated the way you want them. Put your plate back on with those 2 screws that are inside. Screw them back down in, get this nice and tight. Don't over tighten. Situate your wires, get them all nice tucked in neatly. Then you can put your plate back on, your top back on, and that's really about it. It's pretty straightforward. It can be a little bit of a hassle, but I mean nothing that's hard. Just a little time consuming if things don't quite go the way you plan them to go. I.e., I need to find an extra servo extension because I thought for sure this one would reach, but not quite. I was off by about half to an inch. So we'll fire it up real quick. Alright, got it powered up. Now, another thing you want to make sure of before you actually, now that I'm thinking of it, when you have it powered up initially to center these, you want to make sure they're turning in the right direction. So don't hook them both up at the same time. Do one at a time. Make sure that when you go left, that your wheels are turning left, which they're doing. And then you want to make sure that your right servo is turning the right tire right, which it's doing. Obviously it's turning the whole thing because I have it connected, but your right servo should turn your right tire to the right, and your left servo should turn your left tire to the right, to the left. And your left servo should turn your left tire to the left. So as long as that's going the way it's supposed to, then you're good to go. I looked in the manual as far as servo reversing on this thing. I know it can do it. You probably have to go online and look it up and see exactly how to do it because of these multi-function knobs that are a pain in the butt. You got to go through all these different functions till you get there, and that's the only bad thing about these radios. Are not that straightforward when it comes to these fine-tuning adjustments, but kind of a pain. But luckily mine was ready to go, so I don't have to worry about that. I did my mini E-Revo with a Savox Servo, and I had to reverse the servo and the radio on that one, and I believe I had to go online and figure out how to do that on that radio too. So you can definitely tell that there's quite a bit more torque now. And faster too. It's fully extended. Yeah, a lot better. A lot better. And yep, not even hot at all. That shouldn't be hot. I barely did anything with them. But my right Traxxas servo was starting to get really hot when I would run it. Left one was just a little warm. This one was starting to get really hot, which means I'm pretty sure that servo was going bad. That's another reason why I ordered these, because I figured that servo was going to go bad and I was going to need to either call Traxxas and get new Traxxas servos. And I figured since I'm going to do all this, I might as well. I want torquier servos anyway. The stock ones just really are not that torquey. And the stock ones, you really can't move the tires when you're on asphalt. If you're on like short grass or like gravel or whatnot, what have you, or loose dirt, I mean, you can turn the tires when they're at a standstill. But like on asphalt or any kind of blacktop or concrete surface, when it's standing still, you're not going to really be able to turn these tires. And I wanted just more torque to be able to move it along, not have to just have it under power to turn these tires. So I really like how it turned out. This is Beyond the Blue RC1. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and please subscribe.